So now it's running here. Great. And I'm recording. Yes, great. So I'm planning to talk about many different subjects here today. And the first is a little bit about articles, mainly how to find them and how what an article looks like. But I think Annabella will maybe put in some extra stuff later in the course as well when the project starts about writing and things. I will also give a brief introduction to simulation, because that's what the labs and project is all about. So today it will be a little bit introduction, but then in the lab intro later on, it will be more focused on the simulator we are going to use. So today it will be more general stuff. And maybe I will have time for some statistics in the end, measurements and statistics. We'll see. Otherwise, I will add that at some other later in the course at some point. I'm not so very fast always. Nope. And feel free to write in the chat or ask questions. It's okay. This is not so. I'm recording, but it's no big deal to disturb me or something. And you can speak Swedish as well. That's okay. So yes, scientific articles, that's all the seminar is about. And you need maybe, well, very often to search for them and downloading them. Sometimes they are very easy to find. But what is a scientific article? Well, it's something typically that a researcher or a research group has published. There are very often multiple authors. Like in this article, the title of it is TCP Testing, How Well Does NS2 Match Reality? And there are two authors, Bateman and Butty here. This kind of article you publish at a conference. So before Corona, you traveled to the 24th IEEE International Conference on Advanced Information Networking and Applications somewhere in the world to present your work. And before you were allowed to go there, you must send in your article, and then it must also get accepted for publication. So it's a quite complex procedure. And in the end, it ends up in all library systems everywhere. And you can download and read it. Sometimes you need to pay money for it. We shouldn't need that, at least for the articles in this course. But a typical reference that you find in the end of your thesis reports and articles and such things looks in our field very often like this. You have the authors, you have a title, and you have where you can find this publication, the conference or book title or whatever. And all conferences end up as a book. Nowadays, it's not a real book, it's a virtual book maybe, but it has a volume and number, and this article is on these pages of that book. Maybe 20 years ago, there was really a book from this conference where all the articles were assembled. But no one prints books anymore from conferences, but they still use the same system. So it ends up, if someone wants to print the book, it will end up on these pages. So that's the kind of formalities around articles, research articles. And how to obtain them? Well, easiest thing is actually just do Google or web search. Sometimes you find perfect version, you find a PDF, Some authors put up free versions. If you're unlucky, you can get or lucky, you can get a preliminary version. And that might be good enough, and then you're happy. Otherwise, you can go to our library and access the full text databases, IEEE Explorer and ACM Digital Library. There are many databases in the world, but these two covers our area quite good. So how does it look like? Well, you go to Bibliotek HVSC. Oh, maybe I should do it. Yes, I should. So you go to Bibliotek HVSC. You search for databases, and IEEE is good, IEEE, or ACM Digital Library. Those two are the best ones. You need to log in. I was already logged in now. So you need to log in using your student account, and then you are at the database via access provided by Högskolan Väst here. So now we have access to all full text PDFs. That's very convenient. Otherwise, they cost several hundred crowns, I think, each PDF. So now I'm searching for myself. Oh, that's horrible. Have I published something? Maybe. There are a lot of Thomases in the world. The search is not so good, maybe. Oh, yes. Here we have our nice article from me, Andreas, and Robert, where we built a Bitcoin paying toaster. So now I can press PDF here. If I want a convenient way of citing this, I can just press cite, and then I copy this to my own report as a reference in the end. Then I get the good format like authors, title, where it's published, and things like that. So that's very quite convenient. If I want the PDF, I can just press PDF. And now, thanks to my HV account, I get it for free. So yes, oh, let's see now. Where did it end up? No, that's not a good one. This is our article. Ah, it's very fancy. Read it if you want, but this is not in a seminar this year. But this is a typical article look. They almost always look about the same. They are very often two-column with quite small font. It's a traditional research way of doing things. And this is the toaster we built that pays for electricity using Bitcoin. It's a very exciting article. I recommend it when you have trouble sleeping during night. Yes, you can find, I think, almost all our seminar articles in this way. But sometimes we use articles that are not really research articles. It might be more company white papers or something else. So a search on the web is very often a good start. As a researcher, that's when you're a PhD student or when you are a PhD afterwards, or professor or whatever. You need to publish, and a way to do this is that you write a paper, an article, you submit it to a conference. Then there is actually a review process. So a program committee reviews the paper and finds if it's accepted or rejected. And if it's accepted, the author presents the paper on the conference, and it will be an official publication. Otherwise, it's unpublished work, and that's not as high quality as published work. And some conferences are really hard. It might be they might only accept maybe 10% of all submitted papers, and the acceptance rate, it's typically a measurement of the quality of the conference. If it's 100%, it's no good. It should be 10%, then everyone fights to get included. That means when you read research articles, they are very often of fairly high quality. Not always, but there has been a review process. Not everyone has passed. So and the program committee members actually tell the authors to improve stuff as well and things like that and make things clearer. So papers and articles are very often of a high quality and not garbage in some way. But it's no general rule. You can find strange articles and papers as well. Alice wonders how many publications I have. I have not so many. I'm not a very well-published researcher. No, I'm not. I haven't counted, but maybe it's 8. But 8, yeah, 8, something like 8 publications, and that's no 10, 15. I don't remember, but that's really, really low. That's what an active researcher should write per year almost. If you want to be very successful, become a professor or something, you need 10 publications per year. You need to be very productive. But you don't write them yourself, you write them together with others. So it's not you yourself that needs to write 10 papers per year. Yes, so I've prepared, there is a good article about articles. It's quite funny. It's an article about articles. And it's rules of thumb for writing research articles. I think it's nice to read that article when you're going to write your own article in the end of the course. And if we take a look, let's see, no, here we have it. I will put it up on Canvas soon afterwards here. So it's an article. It looks like an article and it's about articles. So it has some kind of notes here to try to pick a catchy title and things like that. Tips in the corner here, in the margins. So articles typically start with an introduction, introduce topics, explain why it's important, explain what's been done in this area before, and what needs to be done, and then you introduce your problem, what have you done? And that's the kind of problem formulation and objective here of the article, the purpose of writing these things. And then before the results of your study, you typically include a methodology, explaining how you did things, like experimental setups or whatever. And then you can include results. And it's good to give some overview of the results first, and then interesting things and tables and diagrams and stuff. And this is the structure of a research article: introduction, methodology, result, conclusion, discussions. And this is actually very useful for a ex-job or bachelor thesis as well. Normally you can also have a lot of background chapters, depends on the work. And sometimes you have background in the introduction and that's enough, but sometimes you put in some extra chapters for different background subjects as well. But the main thing is the methodology, how you did things, and the result, presenting what you have found. Yes, and conclusions, summary. Yep. And you have the references at the end. So this is an example, and it gives some tips of how you could what you should think about when you write. And what you should think about when you read research articles as well. Because then you can be a little bit critical, trying to read it and see if it's really good or bad. And I have some slides here included. You can read them more carefully yourself later on. But these are some things to think about when you read a paper. So in the beginning, you have the purpose, goal of the whole thing. What is the purpose of the paper? It's not always clear. Sometimes they forget to mention what the purpose is. That's not a good article. If they have a purpose, how important is it? Is it a good purpose? That's interesting. Maybe it's a meaningless thing. They have done it really good, but no one cares. Sometimes that's the case. Then you have a background. Should be enough background to actually understand the remaining article, but not too much background. Method, is it the correct method used? And have they actually used the method they describe? That's not always the case. Sometimes they describe a method, but that's not the method they actually used, maybe. So that's some things to think about here. And then the result, does it make sense? Does it really follow from the work done and the methods presented? Can the results be generalized? Have they included all results? Have they skipped something that should have been included? Results are a bit tricky. And sometimes authors forget or simply chooses to omit some results. Maybe there was some kind of bad result they are thinking. Results are very seldom bad. They are interesting and not interesting. But if it doesn't really fit from what you're thinking, it's interesting as well. So I think all the results are interesting, actually. Okay, conclusions. Can you really make these conclusions? It's a good from the results. Yeah, have they answered the goal? The goal stated in the beginning in the introduction. So that's some things to think about when you're actually reading through an article. And then if you, when you look at your own article or you look at a friend's article, you could give some, yeah, you could look at the form and presentation, like figures, tables, text. Is it understandable? Too small, too big? So that's some more detailed things to think about. From a methodology point of view and results, have the authors covered like sources of errors? Maybe they are a little bit sloppy. If you redo the study, you should end up with the same results. When I read an article and if I redo their study using their explained methods, I should end up with the same results. If they have described it in a bad way, I will not be able to repeat it. Or if they have made some errors they have not really thought about, I might do a better job or do other errors and end up with the result not matching their results. So it should be kind of repeatable and controlled and stable results. Yes. Okay, so that was some general things about writing, actually. And I encourage everyone to look at that Hengel article. I will put it on Canvas soon. and